Hello there, dear friends, and welcome once again to the Relaxed Fantasy Review. Today, we're going to be talking about spells, specifically bad ones. Spells that simply do not wow you when you cast them. Ones that they have their purpose, they have their place, but they can quite easily be replaced with other spells that are better than them, or cheaper than them, or just simple actions that you don't need to use your spell slots on. And spell slots are very crucial for who we're talking about today, the Warlock. Warlocks, with their special pact magic, only have a couple spell slots at a time. Granted, they come back on short rests, but most of the time, when a warlock spends a spell slot, it's got to be worth it. And at first level, when you only have a couple spells to choose from and you only have one spell slot to cast, you want to make sure your spell lands and is worth using. This list of 5 spells that I've prepared today are the worst first level spells on the Warlock list. Now, granted, you may need these spells on occasion, but on your average adventuring day, these spells probably aren't worth casting, so I probably wouldn't pack them as a warlock. But before we get into the list, I'd like to let you know that Relaxed Fantasy Review has memberships. For just $1 a month, you can support me here on YouTube. There's a join button just below the video down there. If you click it, you get a couple benefits. First, you get a little badge next to your name in the comments, letting folks know you're a supporter, earning you my undying gratitude. As well, you also get early access to the videos. I upload videos every other day, and if you want to watch them a day earlier, I upload them for members only the day before they go public. So, if you want to see them early, that's one way to do it. If you can't support or you just don't want to, that's fine. I appreciate you being here anyway. Thank you for watching and supporting me here on YouTube. So, you're a level 1 warlock and you've got 1 spell slot per short rests. What are you going to cast it on? Unseen Servant? Unseen Servant is a spell that summons an invisible force of magic. It's just an invisible, I guess, creature, you would say. It's formless, it doesn't occupy its space, and it just moves around. It can move 15 feet per turn. You can command it with your bonus action, and it can do stuff. It can pick stuff up, it can move it around, it can throw switches, open doors. It can do simple tasks. It's got, 1 hit point, a strength of 2, and an AC of 10. So if a creature can see invisible things, it can destroy it relatively easily. But it'd be kind of cool to have a second pair of hands on the battlefield. Or you could just use Mage Hand. Now granted, Mage Hand can only lift 10 pounds, an Unseen Servant can lift 30. And a Mage Hand has a range of 30 feet, whereas the Unseen Servant can go much further, 60 feet. And it takes a bonus action to command your Unseen Servant, and an action to command your Mage Hand. So, yes, Unseen Servant is better than Mage Hand, but what are you going to do with it? You're using your singular spell slot on this Unseen Servant. What is the purpose here? If the reason is that you need to trigger a trap, okay, Mage Hand can do that for a cantrip. And you don't need 60 feet of range, probably. 30 feet's probably enough. If you're trying to activate objects in combat, let's say you're in a room full of contraptions and you're trying to, drop a chandelier on someone's head, you don't want to waste your action doing that. You want to use your bonus action to do it. Or you could do it. You could walk over there with a faster movement speed than the Unseen Servant, use your free item interaction, because, you get one of those, to just throw a switch, and then you still have your action to fire off your Eldritch Blast or whatever. Unseen Servant is a very niche spell. It has its uses, but I couldn't imagine spending my singular spell slot on this spell. It just doesn't quite add up to me. Another spell I wouldn't want to use it on is Witch Bolt. One of the things I often say about Warlocks is that if you're using one of your spell slots on damage, it better be good damage. Maybe an AoE that lasts a little while, or one really big, powerful explosion. Witch Bolt isn't that. You cast the spell at a creature within 30 feet, make a ranged attack on them. If it hits, it does 1d12 lightning damage and draws a lightning arc between you and it. As long as the arc is there, you can maintain your concentration on it, which isn't terrible, and then use your action on subsequent turns to deal the damage again. It sucks you have to waste your action on it, but then you are getting multiple turns of damage, right? One spell slot, 1d12 damage every turn. Except, Witch Bolt only has a range of 30 feet, and if you or the creature, either of you, get more than 30 feet away from each other, the spell just ends, and you've wasted your spell slot. The spell also upcasts pretty poorly, considering that the initial damage will rise by a d12 every time it's upcast, but the subsequent turns where you are dealing the damage with your action doesn't scale. It remains 1d12, even if you cast it at the 5th level. So it just scales terribly and has this awful mechanic where your enemy can end it just by walking away from you. And then your spell slot's gone, unfortunately. So Witch Bolt, not a good pick. Now, the next one on the list is an interesting one, Distort Value. It comes from Acquisitions Incorporated, a book about D&D businesses. And Distort Value seems like it'd be an interesting roleplay spell. You cast it over a minute, and the item that you're casting it on either becomes rough looking, having its apparent value, or becomes really shiny and pretty and doubles its apparent value. When you do this, you can then try and sell it for a cheaper price or a more expensive price or whatever. And this is a way to trick businesses into giving you discounts. But there's two issues with this spell. First of all it takes is a successful intelligence investigation check, and they can see right through your distorted value illusion, which probably would make them mad anyway that you tried to trick them. The other thing is that you're a warlock. Warlocks are charisma casters. Warlocks naturally have an affinity for the charming skills. So if you're trying to sell things for a little more or buy things for a little less, just use your skill checks. Do a persuasion check, do a deception check, do something that doesn't require using your spell slot. I mean, does this make it easier? Yes. But is it necessary? Probably not. And if you're using your spell slot on this, there's no guarantee you're going to get it back before you need it again. That's the real problem with this spell. In a vacuum, it actually feels kind of cool, but if you're using your sole spell slot on it, then I'm afraid it's just not gonna be worth it at that point. So I say Distort Value, not worth it. This next one is very, very situational. Illusory Script. Illusory Script states that you write a message on, parchment or whatever, and when you do so, you can cast the spell and change the message with an illusion. You can either make it look like, a garbled mess of text or whatever, or you can create a second message that is over the original one. You designate what creatures can read the original, the true message underneath, and anyone else that tries to read it will see the illusion instead. The spell lasts for 10 days. So this is a way that you can send a secret message, and if it gets intercepted, then they will not see the real message. They'll see the fake one. This seems cool, but it's incredibly narrow in its effectiveness. This is the sort of thing that I might take if I was in a political intrigue campaign and trying to send secret messages where I anticipated spy masters and thieves and whoever trying to get information, where information is power. Then Illusory Script might be okay. But that kind of campaign is pretty rare. I mean, up on that shelf, there are dozens of campaigns, several adventures within them. And the amount of times that illusory script would be useful is very low. Not to mention the fact that later on you're going to get the ability to cast the sending spell as a warlock. If you take the right invocation, you can just write a message to someone and they just receive it. No way to intercept that. So illusory script just kind of falls flat unless you're in the incredibly specific campaign where it's useful. And even then, it's only useful if you're not taking your messages personally and you're sending them through courier or something like that. Finally, the last spell on my list, Expeditious Retreat. This is another one that takes your concentration, but it's only a bonus action to cast, so it's not that terrible. You concentrate on this spell, and when you cast it, as well as every turn that you're concentrating on it, you can use your bonus action to dash. So that's cool. You get the same power from a spell that a rogue would get at level 2 for free. Yeah, Expeditious Retreat is useful in one very specific thing, and that is if you have to move very, very quickly. I.e., you can take the dash action as a bonus action, and then you can use your main action to dash again, and then use your movement speed, meaning that you have effectively tripled your movement, or if you're in combat and you're not using your bonus action for anything else, you can double your movement speed while still attacking. Speed is a powerful thing, and being able to move around is very nice, but there's a problem with Expeditious Retreat. When you move past enemies, you take opportunity attacks still. This doesn't relieve you of any of that, and there are also other things Warlocks can use their bonus action on. One of the most common ones is the spell Hex, one of the best first level spells Warlocks can get. Bonus action to cast it, bonus action to move it, also takes concentration. Expeditious Retreat is actually an okay spell in the specific situation where you don't care about damage, you just care about speed. Which comes up sometimes, I guess. But the real problem is that there's a better choice. There's another spell that does better than Expeditious Retreat, Longstrider, which you can cast. It lasts for an hour, no concentration required, and it grants you 10 feet of extra movement speed. Expeditious Retreat doesn't grant you extra speed, it just lets you dash more easily, which technically doubles your speed if you're not using your bonus action. Longstrider, on the other hand, doesn't use concentration, and you don't have to do anything. You just get 10 feet of extra movement speed, which is probably enough. An extra 30 feet versus an extra 10 feet, it's pretty rare that that 10 feet isn't going to make the difference you need it to, when the 30 feet would. Again, not terrible, but probably not worth your concentration 9 times out of 10. And that's really what most of these spells come down to. They simply aren't good most of the time. On the occasion that they are good, yeah, it'll be cool that you have it, but there are better spells to take. I've got a whole list of the best first level spells that Warlocks can have, and they all would be better choices than this list I've just presented. So if you're a level 1 Warlock, or you're trying to figure out what spells to take on your low level Warlock, I would recommend avoiding these ones. This has been the Relaxed Fantasy Review. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe down below. Have a look for the join button down there, and keep your eyes peeled for more spellcasting reviews coming down the line soon. Have a good one, my friends.